welcome to A Talk with Traders. Today I talk with a trader from our Bearable Trading Room and a moderator with the group, Tiffany McCormack. Tiffany's been trading for over 4 years and has a lot of insight into her trading journey that she shares with us. Not only is she a moderator in the room, but she also founded the Bearable Women's Support Group, which supports women traders within the community. It's a great interview, and we have a lot of fun in our conversation. I hope you enjoy. Tiffany, welcome to the podcast. So good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Peter. Good to be here.
Yeah, well, you've been with Bearable Traders for how long now?
Almost 4 years. This August, I believe, will be
Really?
4 years.
4 years? I actually didn't realize it was that long. Well, that's great. We love having you here. I know that you only fairly recently become a moderator, but you've been in the community for a long period of time and are doing all sorts of cool stuff that we'll talk about a little bit later. But why don't we start by getting to know you a little bit better? Tiffany, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I have a background in psychology. Shortly after earning my degree in psychology, I became a counselor at a children's psychiatric hospital.
Oh,
And I did that for a couple of years and realized that my heart couldn't take it. um,
that's tough
so,
work.
um, yes. And around that time, I got married and we moved to Florida. And that is when I started getting into real estate. I did that a few years. And once we started a family, we wanted to come back home to Georgia. We realized we needed family
Yeah.
with our kids in our lives. Um, and then once we came back to Georgia, I was pretty much a stay-at-home mom for 9 years. Within that time, I did some things here and there. I was a family portrait photographer, and then I homeschooled my kids for a couple of years around 2015 to 17. And once they went back into school is when I picked up Andrew's book.
Wow, and decided to homeschool yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Well, good. The kids brought some experience. So why Andrew's book? What led you to trading? I mean, you had a varied background with a degree in psychology and the different things you've done. Why trading?
So funny enough, my husband has been talking to me about trading for years, and I just kept shutting him down. I, I knew nothing of the financial markets. I really didn't even know what the stock market was. So how was I just kept telling him, how am I going to do this if I don't even know anything about it?
Right.
And he says, learn. And I was like, that's not interesting to me. I don't want to do it. So strangely enough, it was the summer of 2017. My brother calls me and he tells me this success story about this guy he knows and becoming a trader. And that, even though looking back, that story is, one in a million,
Yeah.
I was intrigued. So right then and there, I just did a Google of how to day trade books, and Andrew's book came up, and I received it. And then within a month or two, I just started going down Andrew's list of how he says to learn to day trade, and I just checked off the boxes.
Yeah. You know,
And
it's
here I am.
it's funny that everybody seems to have one of those stories. They know a guy who knows a guy, and depending on their perspective, it's either somebody who made a fortune, right, with some investment, or if they don't like trading, it's like they lost everything, right? Like everybody seems to know somebody with a couple of degrees of separation out there that's had either a horror story or this wild success story.
Yes.
So I'm glad
And
you
even
got the
after becoming
success.
a trader.
Sorry, I'm glad you got the success story, or we might not see you here. So.
Right.
Well, that's awesome. And like so many people, you sort of tripped across Andrew's book. I mean, that's how I found Andrew as well, right? Same sort of thing. I mean, different background, but same sort of search that led to Andrew's book purely by coincidence. And as they say, the rest is history. So that's fantastic that so many of us have sort of tripped into it as a fantastic community and a great way to help develop your skills. So from the book, I guess maybe describe your trading journey. Like it's, every one of us sort of goes through a different learning process. I imagine yours was as unique as your background. So, how did you teach yourself to trade?
Well, like I said, I did every single thing by the book, by Andrew's book, and I just went down the list, and I really, be, I think a benefit that I had was it was a benefit for me not having a background in this. So I really pretty much took this book as gospel and
Right.
and I just really did everything he said. And I guess, of course, in the past few years that there's been lots of ups and downs. And it took me about 2 years, I guess, to figure out just the charts and the software and figuring out my edge. And then it took another year to hone in on my strategies and then start working on psychology. And it just took a lot of patience, a lot of persistence. And and I feel like it took me a while to figure out my edge. When I started in the simulator, of course, and I journaled every single trade from simulator going into live, and I would start out trying to focus on one particular strategy, and I found myself trading everything, like 20 different strategies. Not, I don't know 20 different strategies, but I just jumped into everything for a long time, but I journaled everything. So there was a turning point for me about 2 years into trading, and that was going over my journals and just looking at each particular chart that I had traded. And I started seeing patterns that were taught to me. However, I didn't understand it until I went through my journals and was figuring it out for myself, if that makes sense.
Oh my goodness. And you're this is music to my ears because one of the things that I tell people over and over again is journal your trades. It's amazing what you learn through your journals. And in fact, when you least want to journal is probably, I believe, when it's most valuable. So it sounds like you followed that process and you realized through your journals it started to show you those patterns, I guess, the repeatable patterns. That now, out of curiosity, Tiffany, did you see those patterns when you were trading originally, or was one of those things afterwards when you're looking at your trades, you're like, oh, that's what was happening, or that's what I missed?
Right. It was after the fact.
Yeah.
I mean, I was not trading that strategy. And to be honest with you, I didn't when I it was actually at that time it was a double bottom shortly after the open, and I was not trading that. I was trying to trade the breakout, and I kept getting stopped out and going through. And that was actually something that Brian was trading at the time as well, and he had been talking about it, but I really didn't put it all together until I figured it out myself.
Well, and that's typical for so many people. Like this is a process that you have to figure out for yourself, and it amazes to me how many people come to us, whether it's in the chat room or elsewhere, that always say like, show me the shortcut, right? Like I want that quick fix. Show me how it's going to work. And I always feel bad, but I'll give them the same answer every time. There's no shortcut. You got to figure it out for yourself, as you just described, Tiffany. And there's no. They say there's no substitute for hard work, right?
Yes,
And it took you
absolutely.
that reviewing your trades that weren't working To realize the setup that you were missing, and I love that. I think that's fantastic. But good for you for sticking with it and figuring it out, because that's the tough part of the journey a lot of people miss, where they just get frustrated and like, look, obviously I can't do this, right? I'm just losing. It's not working.
Right. Yes.
And it's hard. It's hard to stick with it and say, okay, but why isn't it working, right? What am I doing wrong? How do I improve? And it sounds like you've made that, you've crossed the threshold. You're over the over the top of the hill so far. Now, that being said, I imagine it hasn't been all sort of, you weren't successful until you were, and then it's like green every day. I imagine you've had some setbacks.
Yes, I have had setbacks. It seems as if every time your confidence is super high and you have a setback. As
Yes.
soon as you let your guard down, the market has something to say about that.
It's
So
absolutely
I,
true.
I
Yeah.
I really kind of go day by day thinking that this could all end today. I mean, I and I use that. I try to pick A1 setups because I know that the very moment that I slip, I can lose. I could lose it all in one trade.
Wow, that's a harsh perspective, but I appreciate why you look at it that way. So, do you think that has I don't know, saved you? I guess in the past.
Actually, no, I really think it's hindered me.
Oh, okay.
I
Why?
Because I am very risk adverse, and so I like I said, I think I'm very worried a lot about losing. And so that is something that I've had to overcome through the years. And how I've done that really is just keeping very strict rules and trying to, I guess, not, I mean, as much as you hear this, try to trade without fear and emotion in the markets. And it's a constant daily reminder for me to not have that fear. And sometimes I guess yes, maybe it has helped me with because I have no problem getting out at my stop loss at all
Right.
because of fear. So that yes, it's helped me in that aspect, but I mean, there are days where I have to talk myself into a trade.
Well, I understand that. I am a chronic undertrader, and it sounds like you're describing sort of that analysis paralysis scenario, right? Where you can sort of you can always find a reason why the trade isn't absolutely perfect.
Right. Yes.
So what
And
have
I
you? I guess what have you done in your trading to get you to the point where you can take it? Like, how do you convince yourself that this is worth the risk?
It's really about my rules. Every day before I trade, I go over my rules, and I just feel if I rely on these rules and I know that I have an edge in the markets, it doesn't feel as emotional when it doesn't work out my way. As long as and journaling, as long as in the and the, at the end of the day, and I'm journaling, and I know that my entry at everything I followed my rules on, it doesn't feel as personal.
I, oh my goodness! I swear, everyone, we have not scripted this, but you're giving all the answers I'd want you to give, Tiffany. So, but because
Oh,
I do
great.
think I do think a rule set is important, because you're right. That gives you the confidence that, if I follow these rules repeatedly, I will have success. Not every single trade, but over a large selection of trades. I assume that's sort of how you look at
Right.
it as well.
Yes,
Yeah, and that
that's correct.
that's really the confidence I think you need to build. And I love how you took this so methodical and you took your time. So many people try and rush the trading journey, or they're like, "Well, look, I know that you say it's going to take 2 or 3 years, but how can I do it in 4 months?" And I,
Right.
you're right.
Yes.
I struggle with people who ask me the question because I get it. Like we all want the quick path to success, but back to the problem is it's the stuff you don't expect to learn that most benefits you in the long run. At least that's my opinion.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so
Um,
it makes it hard, right? If you say, well, I'd like to just show me the end point. How do I get there?
right, right. And funny, you should say this. This year, I have taken my time this entire 3.5 years, and I understood that it was going to take a long time, and I didn't rush anything, and I was on a really great path, and when the pandemic hit last year, my husband lost his job. So
Oh my.
that very first week that he lost his job, I kind of panicked and I was losing
Right.
more trades than normal.
Yeah.
So the second week, I decided to take down my risk so that I can focus again more on making good trades and not and like I've said, I'm risk adverse. So throwing this in the mix is
Right.
I was very scared to lose any money. So that set me back a little bit. But going forward, I tried to rush it. The second week when I lowered my risk, I was like, okay, I can do this. I've got this. And so I started trying to increase my risk very rapidly, more than I'm comfortable with. And I turned into a trader that I was, I'm not a scalper.
Yeah.
And I turned into, because I was risking so much, so well, I increased it rapidly. I started scalping more. So this was last April,
Okay.
and it wasn't until really about a month ago I decided I've turned into a trader that I don't recognize. Like I'm I was trading I was trading strategies that I was trading my strategy. However, I wasn't following through and it wasn't as comfortable and fun as it used to be.
Right.
So about a month ago, I decided to really restart, just hit the restart button. I lowered my risk again, and I'm really focusing on what I really enjoy trading, the style that I enjoy trading. So this month has been a lot. It has been a breath of fresh air. But getting back to what you had said, when I tried to rush it, it just I I didn't enjoy it as much anymore.
And it's those life events that have such a deep impact on our trading that sometimes you don't realize until after it's had the impact. In your case, with your husband losing his job, as you said, like, okay, you think you can put that aside, and I'm just going to go back to trading and do the same thing today that I did yesterday. But yesterday he had a job, and like so. But there's stuff in the back of your head that wasn't there before, and it changed. It changed your trading. So I'm happy to
Yes.
hear you recognize that and did something about it. But it sounds like it's taken you a while to sort of readjust and get comfortable again, I guess, in your trading.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and
Yes, it did.
and there's a great lesson in that too, because that also happens so frequently. It's amazing how many times we all go through the same problems, but it feels so unique because it's like no one else must be going through this, right? Like it must be me. There's something wrong with me, and then when we start talking,
Right.
this you realize actually there's another dozen people out here that are going through the same thing right now.
Yes.
And I want to get back to your technical, your trading style, because you've mentioned it a couple of times. But I want to build on the last thing that I just mentioned. So, because one of the things that I know that you took upon yourself is to help build an environment where you can have conversations with other like-minded people and where you can get the support that you needed to help you through the journey. Maybe you can talk about that and the Bearable Traders Women's Group that you've helped coordinate.
Of course. Yes, we created a women's group through BBT, and it's just a support group, and it's been really amazing. Like you said, when you share with other like-minded people, and you have people there to back you up, to support you, to reach out. I mean, just just the support is amazing, and um, it's just been really great.
So, and to be clear for everyone, so we have the Bearable Traders chat room, which is the main chat room in which every member can participate and can actively have a chat, and we've got moderators on all day. But this is a separate group that you set up that allows you to have a conversation just with, I guess, the invited female traders.
Right. Yes, and we hold each other accountable for the rules that we have throughout the day and trading, and we help each other um, just just become better traders. And when we have a bad day, we pick each other up.
And that's good, and that's fantastic. I know you recently had you even had a virtual social. What was it, about a week ago now, week and a half maybe?
Yes, we the last Friday of every month we have a Zoom happy hour, and those meetings turn the happy hours turn into 3 hour long sessions.
Right. That's awesome. Well, it's awesome. So there's a social component to it as well. It sounds like it's not just trading, which is important because trading is such it's lonely, isn't it?
Yes,
It's a
yes.
I mean, we may be talking, chatting with people, but it's a very isolating activity, especially, of course, when it's not going well, right? That's when you feel most alone.
Right, yes. And and even then, when you do have a bad day, there have I've noticed, it's hard to even go to the women's group and say, "Look, I've had a bad day." A lot of times we won't hear from the person until the next day
Right.
because I mean, it's hard when you have a bad day.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that's reasonable. Sometimes you need that time to process, right? The wound has to scab over a bit, so to speak.
Right.
Wow. Well, that's good. I think that group is fantastic, and thank you so much for helping coordinate that with well, the others in the room as well. But I know that you took a lead. So let's get back to your technical style. So I'm curious. So you mentioned you've gone through a couple of iterations of different styles. You followed Andrew's book to the letter. You developed a style, and then it sort of changed on you. As you said, you sort of became this a scalper type trader that wasn't as comfortable as you wanted, and now you've moved back. So what would you describe? What's your preferred trading style? Well, patterns and approach.
Yes, I trade patterns for sure, and then I use volume and level two as confirmation. Um, Here lately, I've kind of lost my edge on opening range breakouts.
Mm,
So I used to. I mean, sometimes I love those, and but my favorite right now is just reversals, either head and shoulders, double tops, and I'm really more comfortable taking shorts. So I'm constantly looking for uh, head and shoulders and double tops to take to the short side. Um, and I have a set trade book that I go by, and I use the 1 minute, 5 minute, and 15 minute chart. And um, I I like to wait for the confirmation on the higher time frame, which is my 15-minute chart is my higher time frame. But that and here lately, I mean, I have maybe been taking one or two trades a day because I wait so long. Like today, I think my first trade was an hour into the open,
hmm
maybe even an hour and a half, and I just sit patiently and wait on the reversal to happen.
No, well, good for you. I think that's laudable. That's how people should be trading. And well, and as we sit here, what is it? It's the 4th of March, 2021, and we were having a conversation just yesterday in the chat room, actually, about the changing, the ever changing nature of the market. So it may not be that you've lost your edge, Tiffany, on that. It could just be that those opening range setups aren't as effective right now. They're either not as prevalent or they just don't work as well. We were commenting yesterday that a month ago, the opening range would be almost like the biggest move of the day, and you can get these big moves, and that is typical when you have a trending market. But as the market has become more choppy, those opening ranges are also less clear and less effective, but you can get good moves in the middle of the day if you're patient enough to wait for them. So it could just be don't give up on the strategy, but hey, it's not working right now. You just wait for the market conditions to realign themselves to a point at which that will work again.
Right. That makes total sense.
So yeah, because I see a lot of people that are like, "What's wrong?" Either something's wrong with me or has the market changed? And I always want to go back to, well, the market's always changing, but it doesn't mean it's changed away from what you knew forever. And that's a tough concept for people to I know, to get their head around. That it might just be whatever you were doing that worked over the last week, month, quarter. Is just less effective in the current market conditions. Now the problem is I can't always describe what those market conditions are, right? It's just that the market sort of changes, and sometimes it changes very quickly.
Right.
Like a year ago right now, market conditions changed very quickly, right? The pandemic hit. We went from a nicely trending upwards market to suddenly everything tanked, right? So that, we can all
Right.
sort of point to the market changed really quickly, but we could all sort of you understood what was happening. Right now, we've got a market that's changing into a period of uncertainty because nobody knows quite what to expect. We've been, the market then recovered itself, it's picked up, we've been at all time highs and so many things. Now that the world might be reopening, should we be going higher? Is there going to be a pullback? When I watch the markets, I'm seeing a lot of uncertainty out there. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, if you do, Tiffany, I'd love to. Please tell me.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. No.
And that's what I think is so fun and great about day trading is we really don't have to know. Like if I follow my rules and I have a strategies that I trade, I don't have to know where the market is going to be tomorrow.
That's a great point, and you're right. Like, just follow your rules, and if your rules, show that a trade doesn't set up until an hour and a half into the market, then so be it, right? That your job is to sit there and be patient. I often use it's the alligator at the watering hole in the African savannah, or the sniper in the bushes, whatever.
Yes.
But it's about patience, right? You wait for your opportunity and only jump when the conditions are sufficiently, when you think they're good enough. And that might take a while.
Right.
Like, I've gone entire days without trading. Now it's been a long time, but have you ever sort of sat an entire day without finding a trade?
Um, I have, I have, but I don't sit in front of my computer the entire day. If I'm sitting there for 2 hours and I still do not find a trade, I will go do something else and then maybe come back a little later. But if I sit and watch my computer for too long, I will see things that aren't there and start trying to jump into a trade that's not a perfect setup.
Ah, well, good. Yeah, that's good maturity, and that actually leads to something else I wanted to talk about yeah, managing your psychology, because that's a psychological impact, right? Because you just want to start. Well, I've been here for 2 hours. Like, I got to trade something, right? I can't waste this whole
Right.
day. So how do you? I
Yes.
mean, you said one of the ways you manage that is you just get up and walk away and do something else, and then come back and see if anything's setting up later. Have you sort of figured out some other tricks by which you manage your own psychological pressures or issues?
Well, like I said, I review my rules first thing before trading. I also love to do yoga and meditation, and that
Mm.
really helps me a lot. Now, with the kids in school, right before the market opens, I'm getting kids off to school and everything. So it becomes a little tricky for my scheduling to get that in before I trade. So sometimes I will not be able to do yoga or meditate before the trading day begins, but I definitely make sure that I do it at some point during the trading day to kind of reset. And it calms me. Because sometimes, seeing everybody and talking in the chat about, you know, I've made my day, and
Yeah.
you're 5 minutes in and you're like, I haven't even started.
Yep.
It can get a little exciting,
Yeah.
and so I feel like calming my mind helps me with that anxiety or that excitement.
That is tough, isn't it? Sometimes when people are like, "Yep, done for the day. See you later," and you're like, "What? I haven't even taken a trade yet."
Yes.
Well, I understand that feeling. I'm there many days, but well, it's good. So you found a way to deal with it. You like the yoga and the meditation, and that sort of helps you, as you said, recenter and calm yourself. That's fantastic. Have you found that?
Yes.
I mean, you mentioned about having to get the kids off to school, and that like has. Um, I guess, do you think your trading style came about because of your personal life? Did you incorporate it into your life the way you wanted it to be? Or have you had to make changes to your home life to make this all work?
I both actually.
Okay.
I think that having kids, this really is the perfect career. Being able to work from home, I can set my schedule. I don't if the kids are sick or I have to go pick them up or take them to events or whatever, I am in charge of my own schedule. So it's benefited me there. However, it was a big transition from being a full-time mom to trading because me as a mom being home with my kids all the time, especially in the summer when they're home all the time,
Right.
they're used to just coming to me no matter what at any time of day. And so it's still a real struggle for them to understand that they have to leave mom alone for a little bit. But so for a while, I was trying to force them to leave me alone. And then I had to end up, it was stressing me out too much to worry if they're going to come up. I just had to adapt to that instead of forcing them not to come up to me because it's inevitable because I'm mom.
Right.
I mean, my husband could be sitting right beside them and they have to come ask me the question. So I kind of had to adapt with that.
Yeah, that is the plight of moms around the world, I think. So, how old are your kids?
I have a 9, 12, and 14-year-old.
Oh, wow. Okay. 9, 12, and
Yes.
14. Yeah. All right. Well, so they're not they shouldn't need you every moment, but they're still in
No.
that bracket. Yeah.
Yeah, and my oldest two are boys, so they really only need me very rarely, and it's something to do with their electronics. um, but my daughter, she is like kind of attached to my hip, so
Right.
and she's 9.
Yeah. Well, enjoy it. That will change. Says the guy with 3 kids are all in their 20s.
Oh,
So well, so I mean, but that leads to an obvious question. I mean, do you think that trading is different for women overall? Like, are there different hurdles or barriers, I guess, that you had to face being a female trader that maybe men don't have to face?
I've been thinking about this. I'm not. I. It's a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
I do not think that obviously the market doesn't care if you're female or male. However, I have been a part of the BBT community my entire trading journey. So, and they have always been so wonderful with females. And so I don't know if my experience is different than someone else's. I always feel like BBT treats you equally.
Right.
So I don't know if other females feel differently, but and maybe with the mom aspect, that may be a little different.
Right.
But even then, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, that's, I mean, I guess that's good that you don't know, that you just feel like a trader, right? I mean, you're just a trader who happens to be a
Right.
mom. So,
Yes.
and that's the way
And
it should
in
be.
our
Go ahead.
and in the women's group, when we talk about the things we're struggling with or what we're working on, it's really no different than what I see in the chat that we're all struggling with. Or so I think that really, like you said, it's a good thing. I think I'm a trader.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic because I just it always puzzled me. There's been such a stigma around it being a male dominated profession, and I get that. I mean, there's some history behind that. I get it, but there's endemically to the I guess to trading itself. There's no justification for that. Anybody can do it. I don't care who you are or where you come from. As you said, the market doesn't care who you are. The market will treat you the same. It'll take your money just as
Yes.
just the same, right?
Right.
Well, that's good. It's good that you've got a community and support that allows you to just be who you are, irrespective of your background.
Yes.
So what would you say, Tiffany? I mean, trading. It sounds like it fits in your lifestyle. There's it's working for you, but it's not all roses and champagne. And give me what were the best and worst aspects of trading for you? Like what has worked really well, and what was the stuff that maybe you've struggled with the most over time?
I touched on what's been my struggle, and that's me being so risk adverse,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I've had to really work hard to overcome, and it's still there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I trading is fun. I mean, it's what I've enjoyed about it so much is it's something new every day. You have to keep working towards being bettering yourself, not only as a trader, but you have to keep your emotions in check. And I think it's made me a better person. I think it's made me a better mom, a better wife. I don't, I just, I've really enjoyed this journey in becoming a trader.
Wow. Well, that's great. Big change from Tiffany of 2017, right? When you had no interest in this
Oh,
stuff.
yes, absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. So I mean, the journey continues. It's there's never an end point, as you've said yourself, right? Like, as you can, you go well, but soon as you lose focus, the market will have a way of sort of reminding you that who's really in charge here.
Right.
Any advice you'd have for new traders as they're starting out? What one or two things would you say if there's somewhere you should be putting your effort towards? What is that?
My biggest advice is have patience, so much patience, and just persistence, and journal, even when it's painful,
Mm-hmm.
even when you overtrade and you have 40 tickets at the beginning. I mean, journal every single one. You are going to learn from that more than I think anything else. And the classes that are offered through BBT, I would watch them over and over, and every month I would get something completely different out of the class. It would I remember it being so crazy that I couldn't believe that I just watched that class, but I didn't get half of what was said. I didn't
Right.
understand it And then as you're maturing as a trader, things start becoming a lot more clear. And that goes back to patience.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point that I hadn't thought of. But you're right, because sometimes it's like reading a book or anything else. Like you may not be in a position to absorb all of the lessons being provided. So you take a little bit, you come back to it later, and these video classes are the same way. And maybe then you'll pick up a little bit more. That's oh, that I get it now, right? Because you've had just that much more experience to start connecting more dots.
Yes,
That's awesome.
yes.
Well, great. Well, thanks, Tiffany. Look, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. It's always good to talk with all of our traders out in the community, and we love having you here. So, thank you for everything, and we will see you in the trade room.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Peter.
All right. Have a great one.
You too.